My name is Mark, and I grew up in a quiet little town in Kansas. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and life felt simple and safe. For the first 8 years of my life, I thought the world was a good and happy place. My family loved me, my friends played with me, and I didn't have a care in the world. I remember playing outside until the sun set, laughing as we ran through the neighborhood. But in 1972, everything changed. The world I thought I knew became darker, scarier, and more painful. What happened to me wasn't something I could have prepared for, and it wasn't something I knew how to handle at the time. It was the kind of pain that lingers long after the events are over, shaping how you see yourself and the world around you. This is my story. It's not just about what happened to me, but about how I found my way back to hope and healing. If you've been through something similar, I want you to know that you're not alone. There is a way out of the darkness, even when it feels impossible. When I was a kid, my best friend lived just a few houses away. We spent hours together, playing games and talking about everything kids care about: school, toys, and adventures. His house felt like a second home to me. I trusted him and his family completely. But behind the doors of that house, something terrible was waiting. His older brother was often there when I visited. At first, I didn't think much of it, but soon I began to notice the way he watched me. There was something in his eyes that made me uncomfortable, but I was too young to understand what it meant. The first time it happened, I didn't know how to react. My friend's brother locked the door, and my heart sank. He forced himself on me, and my best friend helped hold me down. I was confused and terrified. I didn't understand why this was happening or why my friend didn't stop it. I felt completely powerless. This became a pattern. Every time I went to my friend's house, I felt that same fear. I wanted to stop going, but I didn't know how to explain why. I didn't want to get in trouble, and I didn't think anyone would believe me. After all, my best friend and his brother seemed so normal to everyone else. Oh, the weight of betrayal. The hardest part wasn't the physical pain, it was the betrayal. My best friend, the person I trusted most, was part of what was happening to me. I kept wondering why he didn't protect me, why he didn't stop his brother. Was he being forced to help, or did he willingly participate? I never got an answer to that question. Looking back now, I understand that he may have been a victim too. Maybe his brother manipulated him, or maybe he felt just as powerless as I did. But at the time, all I felt was hurt and confusion. How could someone I trusted so deeply allow this to happen? This betrayal shaped how I viewed relationships for years. I found it hard to trust people, even those who genuinely cared about me. I built walls around myself, convinced that letting people in would only lead to more pain. The guilt and shame I feel after every incident, I would rush home and jump into the shower. I scrubbed at my skin, desperate to wash away the guilt and shame I felt. I believed it was my fault, that I had done something wrong to deserve this. I didn't understand why it was happening to me, but I was sure it must have been my fault somehow. That guilt and shame followed me everywhere. It wasn't just something I felt. It became a part of who I was. I felt dirty and broken, like I was less than everyone around me. I didn't think anyone would understand, so I kept it all inside. I told myself that if I could just hide it well enough, no one would ever have to know. But the truth is, hiding doesn't make the pain go away. It just makes it grow. Over time, that pain turned into anger, sadness, and a deep sense of unworthiness. I carried that with me for decades, even though I didn't have to. Breaking the silence took me over 40 years. It took me 40 years to share my story. For most of my life, I kept it buried deep inside, too ashamed to tell anyone. I thought I could handle it on my own, but the weight of the trauma kept growing. By the time I finally opened up, I was barely functioning. It started with a visit to my doctor. I wasn't sleeping, I couldn't focus, and I felt like I was falling apart. My doctor referred me to a mental health team, and that's when things began to change. For the first time, I was able to talk about what had happened to me as a child. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it was also one of the most important. Talking about it helped me understand that the abuse wasn't my fault. The shame and guilt I had carried for so long didn't belong to me. They belonged to the person who hurt me, and it was time to let them go. The path to healing. Through therapy, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, CPTSD. This explains so much about the struggles I'd faced throughout my life. The anxiety, the depression, and the difficulty trusting others. Finally, I had a name for what I was experiencing, and I had a path forward. Healing didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, painful process, but it was worth every step. Therapy helped me understand how the trauma had shaped my life and gave me tools to start rebuilding. Medication helped stabilize my emotions, giving me the strength to face my past. And sharing my story helped me connect with others who had been through similar experiences. For the first time in my life, I began to feel lighter. I started to see myself not as a victim, but as a survivor. I wasn't broken. I was healing. And I want you to know that you can heal too. I was able to reclaim back my life. As I worked through my pain, I began to reclaim parts of myself that I thought were lost forever. I started rebuilding relationships, opening up to people I cared about, and letting go of the fear that had held me back for so long. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I also began to see how strong I really was. Surviving what I went through as a child took incredible strength, even if I didn't realize it at the time. That strength is something I carry with me today, and it's something you carry too. If you're reading this, I want you to know that you are stronger than you think. Surviving trauma is no small thing, and the fact that you're here, looking for hope, shows just how strong you are. Worthy of note is the fact that healing doesn't erase what happened, but it helps you take back control of your life. It helps you see that your past does not define you. Your pain does not define you. You are so much more than what you've been through. If you've experienced abuse or trauma, please know that help is available. Whether it's therapy, support groups, or leaning on a trusted friend, there is a way forward. You don't have to carry this burden alone. I know how hard it can be to take that first step. I know how overwhelming the pain can feel. But I also know that healing is possible. If I can make it out of the darkness, so can you. You are not alone. You are worthy of love, happiness, and peace. Keep going. You've got this.